Sinjuri, nsemmilkom nilqakom għal programm Flusek. Illum ser niddiskutu ir-riżultati finanzjarji tal-Bank of Valletta u magħna se nilqgħu l-istudent tagħna huwa Sur Hunkin li huwa l-kap eżekuttiv tal-Bank of Valletta. Mr. Hunkin, I welcome you once more on Flusek.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
I was telling our viewers that we're going to dedicate this program to discuss the financial results of Bank of Valletta, and we're also going to discuss the settlement of the Deiulemar case. In fact, to start with this, the bank announced an out-of-court settlement of 182.2 million. Why did the board decide to settle such a large sum when the legal opinion was that the bank had good ground to win the case?
Well, the first thing I'd say is we're also holding a special shareholders information meeting to address this amongst any other questions that shareholders may have. But the bank's legal advice has been consistent throughout. The case itself has no legal merits, and in an environment where the courts or the local environment wasn't preconditioned, we would have expected ultimately the merits of the case to win through. The Court of First Instance is right in the midst of Torre Annunziata, as I say, a conditioned environment perhaps, and they ruled against the bank and agreed the claim on behalf of the bankruptcy side of Deiulemar for 373 million plus some interest. The bank appealed and had a robust appeal based on the legal merits of the case, but we needed to factor in the possibility that the appeal court, which was in Naples, only some 40 kilometres north, might come to the same conclusion. Our options post that were appeal again, but this potentially was an extremely long process. We therefore weighed up all the risks that the second appeal court might rule against us, that the benefit or opportunity that we might win, the fact that the case could actually add on more interest and costs, and the costs of carrying capital and being constrained as a business for potentially the next 10 years. Given all of those factors, we decided to approach and work with the bankruptcy side of the curatella in the bankruptcy case, and we reached a mutually agreeable settlement that at the end of the day represents the lowest risk outcome for the bank, given the range of potential scenarios that were there.
Having settled this claim now, how will it impact the bank's financial results in 2022?
So we settled at 180 million out of a court award of 373 million. So we've reduced a lot of that downside risk. The 182 million we had provided previously 82 million. So there will be a 100 million impact to this year's profit and loss account. So our trading results will be as normal, but we will then have to remove 100 million for this one-off loss.
What about the impact on the capital of the bank?
So the bank had been, conservatively preserving capital for some years to protect against this. And the regulators, as you might imagine, wanted to make sure that the bank could withstand a possible impact of 373 million or more. So we had very strong capital reserves. This will reduce our capital reserves by 220 basis points, or 2.2%, which still leaves us significantly above the regulatory requirements. But if you think that we were holding capital to protect against 370 million, 80 million provided, 180 million written off, that frees up some capital now that was previously constrained and tied towards a potential downside outcome. Capital-wise, it's a strong position for us.
Now let's move on to discuss the positive results of the bank for the first quarter of 2022. The bank in fact reported quarter-month profits before tax of 22 million, up from 12.7 million in the first quarter of 2021. What were the headline figures that led to this increase?
Yeah, at the highest level, there are kind of three main drivers. The first is very positive in that we're seeing good growth in our overall operating income, which at just over 58 million was up 5% on the same period last year. And that's as we see recovery from COVID, and we're seeking to drive up our business performance as well. The second one was a release of credit provisions. So over the last couple of years, we have been prudently reviewing the risk profile associated with our credit clients. And as the environment is starting to improve, we saw a one-off 7 million release that benefited the P&L. The other side of that was the costs. Costs grew by 3% year on year, but we've been managing the costs, which were down in terms of the trajectory from last year.
In fact, about the net interest income, it continued to increase in the first quarter. How was this achieved?
Again, so several moving elements within your net interest income. It was up 2.6 million quarter on quarter, which again is a growth of about 7%. Now, net interest income forms the core part of the bank's overall income. It comes from the lending side, so we've seen good growth in the business banking side, and our income in the business banking part of the business was up by 4.4%, again, same quarter on quarter. We saw good growth in home loans with the actual lending growing by around 10%. So those positive growth factors in the lending side of the business generate more lending income. On the converse side, we have to pay for deposits. If not directly to consumers, we have to pay for those deposits being left with central banks or invested. So we've sought to manage that position as much as we can, and we're taking action to try and reduce the cost of having a huge surplus of liabilities. But net, that led to good growth in the net interest income.
Commission revenue was up as well. Which areas contributed positively in the improved figures of revenue?
So the commission side of the business, particularly in areas like foreign exchange fees and cards, were lower during the COVID environment. As we've seen businesses recover from the COVID environment, particularly in cards-based payments and foreign exchange, we've seen these areas recover, and we generated 17.6 million of commission income during the quarter, primarily driven through the recovery of these sides and more activity taking place.
Mr. Hunkin, I'm going to stop here for a commercial break. Sinjuri, ħanamlu waqfa ta' ftit minuti għal reklami, Flusek jirġa' jirritorna b'iktar mistoqsijiet.